Hi everyone, thought I'd give you a quick video tutorial on doing some rib stitching. I'm just covered my elevators for my quarter scale Wildcat. These were covered in Oratex. Really a great product, really love it. This is in an aluminum finish. That doesn't really matter because it's going to be painted anyway, but really handles nicely. Really love working with this stuff, so it's been a pleasure. So I'm going to be doing rib stitching, which will be covered with rib tape, and I'll just show you my method. If you like it, great, use it. Just to show you here real quick, I've got one line that's already drawn already. This is RC56, just regular Canopy glue. You could probably use Elmer's too. It's a fairly similar formula. There's just a lot more elasticity with the RC56. And I don't know if you can see in the camera, but what I've done is I've created marks, tick marks, every 10 millimeters along each rib that gets the rib stitching, just so I have a guide to go off of when I start applying the Canopy glue. What I use for this to apply it with is just a monoject syringe, a 412. I get them by the box off of Amazon for pretty cheap. Use these a lot for applying epoxy in hard to reach places and that kind of a thing too. So it works really, really well. Allows you to get a nice fine line, which is helpful for consistency purposes. So what I'll do here is put the camera down and just kind of show you how I apply this. So we'll just start at this end here. I'm starting on the bottom side first. And just with a very light amount of pressure, just run a bead ever so easily. You don't want to add too much, just enough to create some definition when you cover it with the rib tape. And I'll follow on with that as well. There's nothing perfect about this. If you can imagine, stitching fabric on ribs on any airplane, there's a lot of variances, right? Nothing's ever perfect, just like a line of rivets is never perfect. Well, this is the same here. And you'll find when this is all done, this dries fairly quickly. When we go over it, it leaves a very authentic looking finish. I basically just go right across the rib and kind of overlap each side by about, I don't know, 1/32 of an inch. So works pretty well. That gives you an example. Well, hey everybody, I'm back again. I was able to get all of the faux rib stitching applied with the RC56 Canopy glue, utilizing my syringe monoject 412 to apply the glue. Once that's dry, it doesn't take very long, usually in a couple of hours it's dry, then it's time to apply the rib tape. So I bought this from Brian Burkhart at Dynamic Balsa. This is the quarter scale rib tape. It comes with a very fine serrated edge on both sides, so pretty slick. Goes on just like any other fabric covering or monocoat type thing. You just simply tack it down and then wrap it all the way around. I'll show you how I do this here real quickly. Got my top flight sealing iron set to about 2 1/4. That seems to work. And I start off on the very bottom and I wrap it all the way around the leading edge to the top. Once I get it fixed in position, put some tension on it and tack up the leading edge side, making sure that I'm following my line. Tack that down, and then finally meet the edge on the bottom. Once they meet, again tack that down. Trim it off, seal it up. And then I'll go at it with the sealing iron. So I wanted to share with you guys just on some of the detail stuff that I went a little further on in these elevators. Mainly focused on the trim tab. So let's get this in front of the camera here. You can see the shroud and the linkage and the inside. And I threw this access panel on here too, so I'll tell you how I did that as well. Pretty simple stuff, but really adds a lot of detail. So let's start with the trim tab. Obviously the trim tab is built up separate from the elevator, and that was sanded down. I glassed it, primed it. But as far as making all of the components, I'll just kind of show you what I did here. First and foremost, just simple, basic shop expendables that we tend to have. Starting with the styrene. This is a 1/2 inch tube. What I did is just kind of cut that down to size, sanded it to shape to make this. In fact, here's a better shot. Here's one that I have yet to install. Basically copied from the 3 views and different photos that I have as well. Then I glued that to a base, which basically consists of 0.015 ABS sheet, just to give it something a little bit to grab to, and then it's easy to do some surface detail on that as well. So just stuff I have hanging around. I've got a lot of assortment of different ABS parts. So these 2 items here will allow you to create this. Now what I did is I filled this with some air epoxy to basically serve as a bearing to hold the actuator that I made here. You can see that. And I drilled a 1/16 hole in here. This is just 256 rod, and so this just seats in there. This rod is not cut to length yet, but that just gives it a good place to hold it. After I finished this, I put some rivet detail on there as well, as I previously covered a little earlier here. I think it turned out pretty good. As far as making, the hinge portion of this trim tab, if you can see that, I see you can a little bit. What I did was I used this this brass hinge sourced from Dumas boats. It's really great for making access hatches and that kind of a thing. I got it from Dumas boats directly. I've also gotten it from Micro Fasteners as well. I'll put some links down there in the description. But yeah, really, really good stuff, you know, for functional. In this case, not really functional because these are going to be eventually held into position. Now this one that I haven't finished yet, you know, actually does move. But the intent is not to have it move, just out of simplicity. Also, so 256 rod and basically some brass strip, 1/4-inch brass strip that I use to make that little guy there. So it's a matter of drilling 3 holes and then silver soldering the 256 rod to the inside just to give it, get that joint solidified. So that worked out pretty well. There's some trial and error involved here, but I made a little jig and I just drilled the 1 hole through once I got it folded over itself. And then I just trimmed, you know, the connection down to size. So that works out pretty well. And then to fasten it, I use some 0x80 1/4-inch button head fasteners and their corresponding nuts as well. So that turned out pretty well. As far as the little arm and the trim tab is concerned, I just used some 1/32 G10 that I trimmed down, cut to size, and drilled a hole in it. And that works out pretty well. So in any event, I'm gonna get to finishing this one, or excuse me, this one up. And that'll be ready to go. These are basically ready for primer. I may just slap some paint on them too. I've already mounted the control horns. So yeah, the cool thing about these elevators, I think I mentioned this before in another video that I did, but you know, they are interchangeable. You know, this is the top surface of the left elevator, and here's the bottom surface of the left elevator, which has the trim tab actuator mechanism to it. Here's the top surface of the right elevator, which has a trim tab actuator, as well as this access panel. In the back is just like the top of the left elevator. So you only, throughout the manufacturing process, you just build 1 elevator, and 1 elevator is used in for each stab. You just reverse it. So that's all for now. Thank you.